All right, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to give all the honor, the praise, the glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushua, Bahashem, Rachakwadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles, the great Millstone who rule well. Peace and salutations to the elect scattered abroad. This is the brother Barbers out here with a lesson, and Lord willing is edifying. All right, and live update, breaking news. The article reads: U.S. military begins new strikes on Iran, U.S. Central Command says. And that was pretty much the decision that, Trump, Nero, right, has made following the summit. All right. So, pretty much, as we've been prophesying, we said that this war will carry on, that this ceasefire is eventually going to cease to exist, and it's just going to keep on going and get worse and worse and worse until, Babylon the Great ends up getting destroyed. All right, so let's read. It says, the U.S. military strikes were carried out for a second day after Iran attacked 3 commercial ships in the Strait of Hormuz on Tuesday, according to the U.S. military. New U.S. strikes. U.S. Central Command said that strikes were carried out for a second day on Iran to further degrade their ability to threaten freedom of navigation in the Strait of Hormuz. Iran attacked 3 commercial ships in the strait on Tuesday, according to the U.S. military. It says President Donald Trump capped the NATO summit in Ankara, Turkey, by saying that the ceasefire with Iran is over, and warning that the U.S. might launch more attacks on the Islamic Republic. The president also said the U.S. was reimposing its naval blockade. And, hey, that's the devil, You can't trust him. And it's never in his interest to have peace, as the scripture saith, right? Revelation 6:4. And there went out another horse that was red, and power was given to him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth. So the Lord put this man in position to take peace from the earth, not make peace in the earth. And we know, as biblical prophecy states, this war is going to keep on getting worse and worse. It's not going to, stop. All right. It's not going to, everything going to be good. No. All right. This is all part of biblical prophecy. Keep on reading. It says, and that they should kill one another, and there was given unto him a great sword, and that's Esau. And that's why Esau moves with the pride that he moves with, because he's been given that sword, and he's going to fully exercise the blessing he was given, all right, until his destruction. You see? So let's go back to it. It says, talks in doubt. Trump characterized further negotiations with Iran as a waste of time, adding that he wasn't sure if he wanted to reach a peace agreement with Tehran. Let's just finish the job, you see? That's the spirit of this devil. He said at a news conference at the end of the summit tensions. During the summit, Denmark's leader vowed to defend Greenland after Trump said, again, the Arctic territory should be controlled by the United States. So, Trump is pushing on Iran, and he's pushing to take still pushing to take Greenland, you see. So this is definitely goes into Revelation 6:4. All right. It says Trump also said he wanted to halt U.S. trade with Spain amid tensions over the country's level of defense spending and the Iran war. Trump told reporters during a meeting with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky today that the two leaders would discuss allowing Patriot missiles to be made in Europe for Ukraine's air defense against Russia. Trump later said Lockheed Martin will be the European plant. There you go, man. And there was something else I wanted to read too. Let's read this. This is really not a war so much. It's a denuclearization of Iran, denuclearization of Iran, the president said. So this is all about taking nuclear weapons, not allowing Iran to have nuclear weapons, and everybody should like that, you see. But keep reading. It says Trump said that NATO came a long way today after leaving the summit in Turkey. Yeah, because now you're starting to see tensions rising with the U.S. and NATO. which is, tensions have been, rising, developing, whatever, but we know that it's going to continue to get worse until NATO and the EU, fully come against the United States or Babylon the Great. It says, it was a very, very good meeting, and people understand that the United States we've been treated very unfairly, Trump said. And then on top of that, they weren't there for really denuking. It says, the American president has repeatedly condemned European leaders for not joining in on the war in Iran. However, he left the summit today claiming that there was a great unity in that room today. So there you go. The European leaders, they really not, they really at odds with the U.S. right now. All right. They not agreeing with what they're doing in Iran. All right. And biblical prophecy states that NATO and the EU is going to turn against this devil, right? Going into Babylon the Great. All right, it says, Revelation 17:16, and then in the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. You see? So that's the NATO and the EU. They're both going to turn against the, America and shoot off those missiles. And it's going to be led by who? By Russia. See? So let's get another precept. It's Isaiah 19:1. It says, the burden of Egypt, behold, the Lord rideth upon a swift cloud, going into Yahushai, coming back with the chariots of salvation, and shall come into Egypt, which modern day Egypt, right, is going into Babylon the Great, is going into America, right? The scriptures going to that great city representing Babylon, is also spiritually Sodom and Egypt. Egypt represents what? Hard bondage of the Israelites. All right. So this Egypt all over again, right? Sodom all over again, Rome all over again. All right. It says, and the idols of Egypt shall be moved at his presence, and the heart of Egypt shall melt in the midst of it. And I will set the Egyptians against the Egyptians, right? Which, we're currently, seeing that, right? Babylonians, against each other, the left versus the right, racial tensions, political, gender wars, whatever the case may be. America's pretty much divided on all sides. And they shall fight everyone against his brother, and everyone against his neighbor, city against city, and kingdom against kingdom. And the spirit of Egypt shall fail in the midst thereof, and I will destroy the counsel thereof, and they shall seek to the idols, and to the charmers, and to them that have familiar spirits, and to the wizards. All right, so you're gonna need this truth. You can't depend on anti-Christianity, Islam, Roman Catholicism. All right, you got to depend on this truth. Because during that day, they're going to understand that the things that they believing in was false, right? And understand who the true prophets of the Lord is, So it's going to come a time where, the famine of the word is going to come forth. And, those that, heard of this message and, chose not to take heed, they're going to be looking for the prophets. But at that point, it's going to be too late. But verse 4, which is the point I wanted to read, and the Egyptians will I give over into the hand of a cruel lord, and a fierce king shall rule over them, saith the Lord of hosts. Which we believe that to be, Nero 47, back again, which being Donald Trump. All right. And we're seeing he's pretty much moving like a madman, the things going on with Iran, right? Doubling down against Greenland, pretty much not backing down on, my way or the highway. This is what we're seeing. And as a result of that, the American people, right, the so-called American people is going to be affected by that, because these nations are going to continue to to hate the whore, right, going into Babylon. This is Matthew 24:3. And as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, the disciples came unto him privately, saying, Tell us, when shall these things be? And what shall be the sign of thy coming and of the end of the world? And Yahushua answered unto them, Yahushua answered and said unto them, Take heed that no man deceive you, for many shall come in my name, saying, I am Hamashiach, and shall deceive many. And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in diverse places. All of these are the beginning of sorrows. All right? So, that's where we at right now. All right? We're seeing the wars, the rumors of wars. Things continue to, develop, intensify, all the way to the destruction of this place. See? The major prophecy that we really waiting on is, the implementation of the mark of the beast, which is the RFID microchip. See? And hey, once that pops off, we're going to see the Jacob's trouble intensify, right? We're going to see this war continue to intensify, all the way until, Yahushua steps in, saves the elect, and establishes the kingdom ultimately, But that'll do it with the lesson, Things is looking pretty good in prophecy right now. All right. And Lord willing, your brothers was edified. So with that, I'd like to give all the honor and praise and glory unto Yahweh by Hashem, Yahushua by Hashem, Ra'ach HaKodash. Shalom.